Hey everybody, Andrew Zimmern here. Let's get right to it. It is Friday and we're on time and I'm at my house. Played a killer round of disc golf today, almost set my personal best course record at Bryant Lake Park. I refer to it lovingly as BLP. If you're in the Minnesota area, it's a must. If you are a traveling disc golf fan, make your way to Minnesota. It is, we have dozens and dozens of world-class courses here in the great state of Minnesota. Not even close, I think. Everyone's two favorites are Bryant Lake Park and Blue Ribbon Pines, BLP and BRP. I love them both, but I live further away from Blue Ribbon. BLP is my home course. I absolutely love it. It's in beautiful shape. They've taken great care of it. They've made some great adjustments this year. I mean, the 17th hole is harder than ever now with that expanded water hazard. And I'm just so, I'm exhausted, and I think I hurt my leg. But boy, oh boy, do I absolutely love playing that course. It is just simply the best. All right, let's get right to it. Mike writes, hi Andrew, my daughter and I just returned from a week in Paris. Everywhere we ate, the food was amazing. We never ate in any Michelin-starred restaurants, just the local markets, neighborhood cafes, and random brasseries. Was it just the euphoria of being on vacation, or is the food actually that much better in France and Europe in general? If so, why is that? Well, I think two things are at play. Number one, when we travel, even though we think we're just falling into neighborhood places, we're actually using a different part of our radar to engage. When I'm at home, I have to pick up laundry. I have to get home. I've got to get here by there. I got to do this. I've got to grab that. I got to walk the dogs. You know something? I'm just going to grab a bite to eat right here. Whereas when we're on vacation, we actually are engaging a different part of our senses, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. And here's what I mean. When I'm on vacation, I'll walk up and down a couple of blocks and look, is the crowd right here? I'll look at on tables, what are people eating? Is the staff happy? Are they smiling and laughing? All the little things that tip me off. Does it smell good inside the restaurant? Not fair or average or smell like a restaurant or smell like meat cooking. I mean, does it smell good, right? I mean, you know the difference. There's a restaurant near the football stadium outside of San Francisco, and I'm blanking on the town. It's called, the name of the restaurant is called Bun Bo Hue, after the dish Bun Bo Hue, which is their specialty. And I've walked into 1,000 Vietnamese restaurants in America in my life. Love Vietnamese food. And I remember walking there the first time and just the smell of the house broth that permeated that place. I was like, I knew right away. Place was packed. Everyone was happy. The service staff was happy talking to everyone. Now, are there certain countries where everybody expects more out of the food? Yes. Are a lot of those countries in Europe? Yes. Are a lot of those countries in South America and Asia? You bet your ass. Many other countries, just because they're older, they're not convenience-driven cultures. America is really the king of the convenience-driven culture. And so consequently, we exchange a lot of things like quality for convenience. So in an American restaurant, ones that I've worked in, ones that I operate, ones that I'm currently involved in now, we have something called table times, right? So if a customer orders, we like to get a first course or a drink or an entree or a dessert into the hands of the customer in X number of minutes. In fact, if a guest is seated in a restaurant that I'm involved in, once seated, if a server doesn't get to that table in a prescribed amount of time, that's an issue, like right away, because we know our guests need to be engaged quickly and greeted quickly and made to feel welcome quickly, because Americans want things quickly. In Europe, if someone walks by you and is like, there's one Italian trattoria in Florence that I'm nuts about, Trattoria Sostanza. I don't think anyone would call the service anything special. I'm I'm a regular there. Whenever I'm in the city, I eat there. They know me. I've shot TV there. My show still is pretty popular in Italy, so I'm sometimes recognized that way. I sit down there. 15 minutes. I get a finger like, yeah, just wait 1 second, because I still don't merit the immediate attention, and I don't care. And it's not because I find it humorous and don't care. It's just that I'm in Florence. I don't care. I'm nibbling. I'm watching the people. I'll check some messages on my phone. Who cares? So we have a different expectation. Now, in a country like France, do the customers, in this case, you mentioned the city, Paris, do they keep the neighborhood restaurants more honest by expecting more of them, and the restaurant understands that and yes, absolutely. Do they take food more seriously in general in European cities, Asian cities, South American cities? I do believe so. I think it's cultural. I think they appreciate everything that food means more so than where you sort of have to be a food lover to appreciate it. You'd be surprised how many people, even friends of mine, are like, yeah, we don't really care. Let's just go into that restaurant. Like, it's fuel for them. As long as the food's okay, they're all right. I don't like to waste a meal. I won't even go to a bad donut place. And by the way, sometimes I'm up for a commercial box of donuts, like with lots of preservatives and a big jug of chocolate milk on a hot morning on the road somewhere out of a gas station, right? So it doesn't have to be bespoke, but I don't like to waste a meal. Noah writes, I'm a high school teacher. Can you share with us in a nutshell what the challenges, obstacles are to make the move back to having the cafeteria cooked from scratch? Is it a federal issue or a district level issue? Thanks. Oh my gosh, Noah. This year, in the last 2 months, I've given 2 45-minute talks on this and never even touched all the issues. Let me see if I can do this quickly. It's a federal, state, and district level, municipality level issue. The federal government should be offering a national lunch program that includes breakfast. And for students that need to opt in a third meal to take home, we could end childhood hunger in 4 weeks in this country. We have the food, we have the distribution systems, and we have the distribution and access points. They're called schools, and we have trucks going to them all the time, and we can do this. The cost just for eliminating childhood hunger in America is about $17 billion a year. $17 billion a year sounds like a fuck ton of money, but I want you to hear me out. Several billion dollars worth of that is for equipment. Okay, that yes, will have to be replaced in service and all the rest of that. But in subsequent years, that number comes down. Let's call it $14.5–15 billion. But even if it was $17 billion per year, just for the sake of the argument, let's just keep it at $17 billion a year. You know what? Screw it. Make it $20 billion. Make it $20 billion. The federal budget is $1.63 billion. At least it was 2 years ago. So it's probably more now. But let's just call it $1.63 billion. When you divide that 20, you're at about 0.003. 0.003. That's a rounding error to eliminate childhood hunger in America. Childhood hunger in America is no longer a national embarrassment. It's not a crime. I believe it is truly a genocidal issue because we know we can solve the problem. We have the money to solve the problem. We have the food to solve the problem, the distribution points, we have everything we need to solve the problem, yet we choose not to. And it disproportionately affects people of color. It's a nightmare. Now, there are a lot of states, because the federal government has not stepped in and established that program. I'm very proud of my governor here and my lieutenant governor here. Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan made it a major plank to feed all Minnesota children in schools for free. And that law became a reality 5 months ago. And big tip of the hat to the governor, but even bigger tip of the hat to Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, who's a mom who grew up in a situation where she understood what it meant to go hungry and has worked for decades on this issue as a volunteer, an organizer, working in nonprofits, as a politician, and finally as lieutenant governor. And I'm just so proud to live in a state. We were the fourth of the nation to do it. We need to do it. We need to be cooking healthy, nutritious food, and not 100% of the food needs to come from scratch. We don't need to make saltines from scratch to go with soup. We can buy saltines, right? I mean, we just need to be able to feed wholesome, nutritious, whole foods to kids. And the system has been proved out. You don't have to listen to me. You know, folks like Dan Giusti at Brigade. I mean, there's whole reams of people involved in this issue. Don't believe me. Believe the other people. But I'm right. My son is moving into an apartment next semester for his second year of college. I'd like to teach him some basic dishes before he goes. He and his 3 roommates plan to split the cooking duties. That's great. So recipes that are inexpensive and can scale up would be good. Can you recommend any basic recipes I should get him to try? Yes, Rosa, but you're going to have to hold on 1 second because I just realized, yikes, this is a real life problem. I'm roasting a bird. Can you see that? And I'm cooking some broccoli. Woo, yikes. Well, I was cooking broccoli. I think I overcooked broccoli. You know what that means? That means we're making my favorite pasta dish, orecchiette with broccoli, where it just falls apart and you fortify it with cheese. Oh boy, yeah, I think that's what we're doing. It looks a little khaki green, don't you think? See, even professionals make mistakes. Well, what's in the oven is a great example of, let's stabilize this, of what I think you need your kid and his friends to be cooking. You got to know how to roast a chicken. You got to know how to make an omelet. You got to know how to make a salad dressing or two. You got to know how to make a salad. You should know how to steam vegetables, even though I just made a crazy mistake with that. And there are lots of sort of 101 recipes on andrewzimmern.com. A simple pasta dish, a simple tomato sauce that can be used with pasta, but also can be used as the base of a dozen other dishes. So yeah, go to andrewzimmern.com, fish around, find some recipes. It's easy, and the easiest way to get kids to learn how to cook is to have them cook foods that they like. So have them pick the recipes, or have your son pick the recipe he wants to cook. Cook something new every 2 or 3 days, something you've never cooked before. John writes, "Hey Andrew, I just want to say how much I love watching your shows." Thanks, John. You have truly shown us all the best ways to share love and respect through the foods we eat and the company we keep. Thank you. In an unprecedented time in the world, how do we navigate the pressure from the vegan and vegetarian world to do away with meat as a primary source of protein? How do we balance the carnivore in us with the push to become herbivores? I'm not aware of a push to become herbivores. Is there a happy medium for both versus forcing either side to accept one way or the other? I love meat. I'm a meat eater. I cook meat. I love poultry. I love seafood. I love dairy. That being said, I want to live as long as I can. Every study that I look at says that if you're vegan and you don't smoke and you move every day, notice I didn't say the word exercise, you move every day. If you do service work for others and a couple of other things, you'll add 10 years to your life. So it's your choice. I also was responsible Well, I should just say, I was part of a team that worked with the current administration at the White House Conference for Hunger, Nutrition, and Health through my friends at the EWG to make sure that everywhere the public dollar intersects with food, we have a vegetarian entree offered as an option at mealtime. So like on military bases and stuff like that. You're never going to get any more stringent legal reasoning than that, right? It's always going to be just making sure we have options for those who choose to not eat meat. Nobody is telling you can't eat meat. And in fact, if people ate less meat, not only is it better for you, but the quality of the meat would rise. The demand for cheap meat would go down, and we get better meat at a better price. The more people choose to eat a little bit less meat, the only people who lose are the people who own commodity meat factories where chickens live their whole lives in cages and are pumped full of chemicals and antibiotics and things like that. So I would invite you to look at it a different way. No one's forcing one side to accept another. I've never seen that. And seriously, ask more questions, engage us in this conversation. Where have you seen, you said, versus forcing either side to accept one way or the other? I've never seen that. And sometimes I say things I don't really mean. I'm not trying to, give you a soft landing spot. I'm just saying maybe you didn't mean to express it that way, but that's the way it reads. Randy asks about the broiled lobsters. Looks awesome. How long should they be steamed? Hey, Randy, I steam them for about 12 minutes for 1.5 pounders and 15 minutes for 2 pounders. And I don't lift the lid off. I just turn the heat off. And then I let them sit for another 10, 12 minutes to rest. And then I pull them out. And they're perfect all the time. Regina writes, what's something you cooked growing up? Do you still cook it? I actually just made a batch 3 days ago, and I just drank the last of it today, and that's my mother's gazpacho. She taught me how to make it when I was a little kid, and the minute the warm weather hits, I have gazpacho 6 days a week in my fridge, and I can only go a day without having a pitcher of it in there. I just love drinking it all the time, and it's very healthy. My grandmother's chicken that I just showed you that's in the oven. I mean, even though I'm making it with a capon, it's still the onion gravy. I mean, everything. It's my recipe on the website. I have dozens of those recipes. I was actually just talking to some book agents today. I'm sending out some book proposals and doing some more books and talking about the recipes of my childhood and stuff like that. I'm really excited about it. More to be revealed here. Literally right here will be the first place you hear about it. Any tips for creating gluten-free dishes without compromising on taste and texture? Yes. I never make a substitute. I don't use gluten-free pasta to make cacio e pepe. If I want gluten-free pasta, I use Vietnamese rice noodles that don't have gluten. And I get my pasta fix by eating the food of a culture that doesn't have gluten there. Does that make sense? When someone asks me for a sugar-free, dairy-free, vegan recipe for creme brulee, I tell them, sure, here's one, eat an apple. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I know it comes off that comes off sounding jerky, doesn't it? I apologize. If there's anyone listening who I've ever said that to, I apologize. But I really feel that way. It's like, don't look for substitutes of substitutes. Going back to the person who was talking about veganism and no meat, I don't believe in that plant-based, cell-grown burger stuff. Number one, I don't like the taste or texture, but I'd rather eat actual real cooked vegetables. I'd rather grill a couple vegetables and put them on a bun. I just think it tastes a hell of a lot better. The weather just exploded into summer here. It's been the 80s for like a week. And the other day I made a big platter of mixed grilled vegetables, and I had them hot with, so then the next day I put some in a pasta, and the last day I had some grilled mushrooms left over, some grilled roasted peppers, some grilled zucchini, some grilled onions, and I just stacked them on a plate and just tapped the microwave and warmed them up. And I just poured a little bit of vinaigrette on it and put a smear of melted Comté cheese on a bun and just ate it like a vegetable sandwich. And it was delicious. I didn't call it a vegetable burger to myself. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Joni, do you ever use measuring spoons, cups, etc., or do you just eyeball everything? If I'm baking or I'm doing a recipe that requires any sort of precision, I always measure. I've just been cooking my whole life, so it's kind of like playing music. You don't always have to look at a song, at the notes on a page. You can hear it and you know how to play, you play. And so I know how to cook, I cook. But if I'm making, I was about to say brownies, but my brownie recipe I've memorized and I know I can eyeball that. What would it be? If I'm making sponge cake, which I do once a year for like a jelly roll thing and then ice it and make it look like a log, or doing a bouche de Noël or something, yes, I measure. King J says, hey fam, how did you all find all that wild stuff to eat on Bizarre Foods? My inner fat boy is intrigued. Like, do y'all have scouts or people contacted y'all? You ate some wild stuff on there. Yes, we did. First of all, we always used local folks. We always featured them on camera. We scouted. We would go out in the mornings and look for better stories than were on the beat sheets that the producers back in the home office had come up with. A lot of times you would have 6, 7 great stories. You would go out and you'd shoot maybe 4 of those and you'd find 2 or 3 others that were better. And that's because we just did our homework once we got to the place. The difference now when I'm out shooting TV is that we can have someone on an island in the Pacific take pictures of a jungle market with their cell phone, and when they get back to Wi-Fi, email it to us or text it to us or put it on Dropbox. I mean, it's crazy how tech has changed TV production. And I'm not talking about AI, I'm just talking about researching and being able to see things. It's incredible. Anyway, that's all the time we have. Those are all the questions. I love you people. Please write all your friends. Tell them to buy a subscription. Help us keep the lights on here and help me remember to take my broccoli off the stove when it's done cooking and not 5 minutes too late. Boy, was that embarrassing. But you know something? It happens to everyone.